Fuck me.
Oh, dear.
Every time. Okay, you ready?
Oh, that was funny. I think we just start like that.
Yeah, literally. Hello and welcome back to Daring and Doing. I'm Will Hester and I'm joined by the brilliant Ben Bowman. How was your week off?
Mate, I know. I was about to say glad it's over. I'm definitely not glad it's over. But it's over too quickly. I've been actually very busy, to be fair. I feel like I haven't really had a week off. I've been doing a lot of stuff, but a lot of good stuff. Was back on the fighting cock literally just before this. Did an episode of the new episode of The Lab yesterday talking about strikers for Tottenham.
Unreal episode.
Thanks, mate. Other than obviously listening to this, make sure you go and show that some love as well. You know, there can be more than one Spurs podcast. You know, there can't be too many, but if you're going to listen to a few, listen to those ones as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Keep hearing Ben's voice.
I know. Flav said that to me yesterday. It's like, I'm hearing you everywhere. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Even in those Brian Hill TikToks.
Yeah, I know. That was mental, by the way. I was literally scrolling on TikTok and I saw it and I just watched the video and I was like, what the fuck? And then someone tagged me and it was like, isn't this you? I was like, yes, that is me.
When you know you made it.
Brian Hill. I know. To be fair, it was an unbelievable goal from Hill, wasn't it? I didn't know he had that in him, the Bicey. Superb.
Big occasion player.
Superb. Yeah, but I'm all good, mate. How are you, mate?
Do you know what? I'm feeling pretty miserable this morning because I've been, as you know, because I've spoken to it behind closed doors. I got into it late, but I just got into The Boys and I've been like proper binge watching The Boys. I love it. But I've been like looking at how many seasons and on Amazon Prime it shows season 4 is like ready. So I blitzed through it, finished season 3 this morning, clicked on season 4 and it was the trailer. So I was just like, really miserable, just sitting thinking, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do for like these, like, for like the next few days? Thinking I had like a whole season that I got to wait till the summer for. But I'm still feeling good after that Nottingham Forest win. I'm still sort of reveling in those 3 points. On to Newcastle.
I was going to say, it feels like we've ridden a nice little wave after the Forest game.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, it feels like this is... I know, like, we sort of spoke about it on the pod afterwards, but like, it wasn't perfect, but like, it feels like everyone's just calmed down a little bit, and it's nice because we scored a fucking belter with Van der Ven, who is just the absolute boy. It feels like everyone's sort of calmed down a little bit, which is nice. You know, we've had a good little week, haven't we? Nearly 100 subs on the channel now.
It's been unreal. Unreal. Like, honestly, thanks so much for the support so far on the channel. It's actually been like, it's blown me away a little bit because to think we've only been doing this for what, a month and a bit, coming up for 2 months now, and the love we've like been shown has been incredible. So yeah, thanks so much. It has been a good week.
Yeah, most viewed pod so far. Everyone just loves Van der Ven, don't they? That's what it is. Everyone just bloody it's not. You know, everyone loves us, obviously, and the incredible insight that we bring on like a weekly basis, and just cheer everyone up. With our wit and humour and, you know, make it a really enjoyable listening experience. But, yeah, everyone just obviously loves Mickey. Loves the boy.
Yeah, box office. And he's got that, like, Hollywood look. So even if he ain't playing football, you love looking at him.
0 pints.
Yeah,
exactly.
Pints.
0 pints.
Minus pints.
Maybe just a glass of water, I reckon. Or maybe just one shot for confidence, I reckon. That's the only thing. But, yeah, no. It's been a good week.
No, thank you, everyone. So, on to Newcastle away. So, we've started the weekend. The weekend's round of fixtures. Spurs versus Newcastle at St James's Park. We were talking about our box office sort of analysis we do on this pod. Ben, please can you break down the anxiety I'm feeling towards this fixture? Why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
And how confident are you going into the fixture?
I don't like it. I don't feel good. But it's just because it's Newcastle and it's like, you know, we got beat there 6-1 last year. I saw a tweet. I was trying to find it as you were talking. Some Newcastle fans are getting way above their station, by the way. I know we've got anxiety going into this game because of what happened last year. I saw a tweet from a Newcastle fan that was like, we're going to fucking batter your league. We're going to do it again. And it was like, back in your box. I'm trying to find it now. But I can't find it anyway. Yeah, I don't feel good. I'm going up to the game, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to the time.
Yeah, fuck me, the travel.
Yeah, I know. 5 to 7 train from Stevenage up to Newcastle. But hopefully there's no Geordies watching this. So I thought it was quite a good accent, to be fair.
Yeah, crushed it.
Yeah, in that kit as well, a lot of things that it doesn't feel great. But I think we're good enough to beat them. I do really think we're good enough to beat them. We're a better side than Newcastle. We've shown that this season in our overall play, but we've shown that in the way that we dismantled them at White Hart Lane without, they had men missing, we had men missing, we adapted, Kulu in the 10, Sonny out wide, Richarlison starting to bang in the goals. Yeah, I don't feel good about it, but I think we should. I feel good about this. I've said it before. Whatever you want to say about this come the end of the season, but I feel all right going into this run of games. It's just this game in particular for some reason. Maybe it's because it's the next one, but it is kind of coming with that added level of anxiety. But you know what, mate? We're going to go there, and I think we're going to win.
Okay, I like it.
That's the cutting edge analysis that we were talking about before.
We're going to go there, and we're going to put the ball in the back of the net, and we're going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah. I love
we're
the
either
optimism.
going to win, lose, or draw.
I love the optimism. Honestly,
have you seen that? Have you ever seen that video? Have you ever seen that video where it's like a fan cam outside the ground and the guy says, "How are you feeling today?" It's like, we're either going to win, lose, or draw. So funny.
I like the optimism, mate, because I don't know. It's one of those games where it's like, if it wasn't at St James's Park and it wasn't the 12:30 kickoff, I would be feeling all right, because this game's sort of set up for both teams are going to have a go, and because of their absences that we're going to get into, I feel like we will edge them if it is like that. But it's the St James's Park sort of factor. I just think they're going to be so up for it, and they're going to want to get us back as well. What's been so extreme is that the sort of table turn of from last year for both teams. It's almost like we're back in our place.
Yeah.
Newcastle got so big for their boots after last season. There was obviously the conversations of, Newcastle need to be in the top 4 and in that top 6 and replace Spurs. And we were just like, yeah, fuck off. Like, what are you talking about? One good season. Let's see how you do. Yeah. And they've been shite this season. But to be fair to them, they've had a lot of absences, and a lot of teams would struggle with the amount of absence they've consistently had throughout the season, and it's just like exacerbated. It keeps getting worse. I think any club would struggle with that, but I'm so 100%. Happy it's happened to them, because they were getting so big for their boots, and the fact we smashed them in what probably was that, and Villa probably was our best game of the season, and obviously with 13 points above them, they're 8th in the league. It's so satisfying to see, but that means they'll have a little added bit to them going into the game. They'll have that bit more motivation to try and prove that, hang on, that conversation should still be happening. So that's why I'm worried, because if we lose to Newcastle, they're going to pipe up again. It's going to be like, and what? You're still 10 points below us. What are you going to say?
More than that, isn't it? They're more than that.
If they beat Newcastle.
Oh, right, sorry, yeah. No, I think that's why the wins against Newcastle and Villa have been two of the most satisfying results of the season so far, because it was just back in your box, just a little tap on the head, you thought you were replacing us in this top 6 or whatever, which is, we were chatting about this on the Fighting Cock, that's a load of bollocks anyway, the whole thing about top 6. Remember when Leicester were saying that they should have to replace Tottenham or Arsenal in the top 6? It was
where are they now?
Yeah, I think they're in the. Are they in the? They're struggling to solidify promotion, aren't they, from the Championship? They lost again to Millwall the other night, didn't they? Yeah.
Oh,
funny that. Funny how things come at you like that. Take your best. Yeah, take your best player as well.
Do you want our worst player? Have Harry Winks.
Yeah, Harry Winks. Yeah, exactly. And he's probably your best player.
Yeah,
so that says a lot. But no, I love Winksy. So, but. Yeah, I don't know. And that's why, we said in the lab yesterday, that's why I'd love Isak as my number 1 striker signing, because it would just be little tap on the head, boys. Just little, you're right, Newcastle. Just, okay.
Do you want some money?
Newcastle needs some money. We need a striker, and we're going to take yours, because he can play on the left, he can play through the middle. and he can just bang in the goals. Yeah, that's why. This is going to sound so bad when we're doing this pod on Sunday or Monday and we've lost.
It's been absolutely spanked.
It's dreadful. Yeah. Thankfully, like we're just at the embryonic stage of this podcast where we're doing our thing. We've got a nice little audience, but thank God we're not like
we're doing this whilst we can get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In hopefully like a year's time when we've got like 1 million subscribers on it, and it's like, we'll be a little bit more reserved in our calls. But for now, while we can, let's go big. Because if you can't go big and go early, what can you do? Do you know what I mean? There's no point waiting. There's no point being reserved.
Yeah, exactly.
Go big.
Exactly. That's what football fandom is all about. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be one of those games that I can just see. This is so shit. I can see a win, lose, or draw. No, I'm joking. But like, I can see it swinging both ways, and I think it will be. I think it will be the fixture of the weekend. That's for sure. Because I think both teams are quite box office, especially Newcastle with that added home advantage. But what I am hoping for is Spurs to go there and show. Obviously, we were nervous about going to Villa Park and playing Aston Villa, and we went there and it was our most professional performance of the season. Obviously, we got a clean sheet as well, and I just hope we go there with that same mindset of let's prove these players that this is we are the team they want to be. Still, they're still chasing us. We need to still show them the levels we are at, and I think if we can do that, it will give us such a foundation to go in to the other fixtures confident. Because going to St James's Park, most teams have proved. I mean, it's proved to so many teams in the Premier League to be one of the toughest fixtures of the season. And then obviously they've got the absences, and they're a team to be got at. So it will be a really interesting game. I'm just anxious going into it because it's such an unknown fixture. Anything could happen. So what is their biggest threat then? Because they've got a lot of unavailable players, but they still have Isak, who we'll get into later, Gordon, Barnes, Guimaraes. They still have like a lot of their core and a lot of players that are so significant to the way they play. Obviously, they're a weaker team than when we beat them in December, but how could they beat us if they were to beat us at Newcastle?
Yeah, they are a good side, Newcastle. For like whatever's kind of happened to them, they've been incredibly unlucky with injuries, but they will pose a massive threat in behind as well as much as anything. That pace on the counter-attack, they've scored 5 goals from counter-attacks this season, which is the top 5 in the league. I always thought that when Spurs were linked with Anthony Gordon, and I know it's one of those things where it's easy to kind of say with hindsight further down the line, but Paratici was, obsessed with Gordon. He really, really wanted to bring him to Spurs. And could you imagine him kind of in that role for Spurs on the left-hand side? I think he would actually be sort of perfect. And I think he can hurt us with the space that we sort of leave, because he does like to take on his man, but he does like to thrive on the space that's left in behind. Obviously, they've got a lot of injuries to take into account. They'll be without Wilson, Lascelles, Joelinton, Willock, Trippier, Miley, Almiron, Botman, Nick Pope, Livramento. So it's kind of a decimated sort of side, really. But they can still hurt you. And I think we should be wary of what happened last year. Although the thing is, you can't compare this Tottenham team to what happened last year, because that was when we were at our lowest kind of ebb, really, weren't we? That was kind of as low as it sort of got. And, it was just an absolute, I don't want to say a freak, because we absolutely deserved to get our asses handed to us in the way that we did. But yeah, it was one of them. But, they'll hurt us with Isak and Gordon. They're the two main players. Obviously, Willock driving from midfield as well. We know we're a bit vulnerable in the transition. They'll have energy in there. I think Willock actually he came off injured against Fulham last week, so he might not be available. I can't remember if he was in the long list that I just listed off. But Longstaff as well is a decent ball carrier. But I think that midfield is gettable. I think if you can keep Isak and Gordon quiet, with that makeshift back four that they've got, looking at the back four against Fulham last week, Emil Kraft, Shah, Byrne and Lewis Hall, that's vulnerable against a side that poses kind of the attacking threat that we do. And I think it's a really important point of what you said about Aston Villa, in the sense that we were all really nervous about that game because there was a hell of a lot on the line in terms of qualification for the Champions League. Obviously, it's still very, very close between us two. Getting that, result at the end of the season could be the difference between Champions League football and not. But that was a Villa team without really, obviously they have got injuries, but that was a strong Villa team we went to play, and with our best team available as well. So it was always going to be a very interesting matchup. There should be nerves going into this game, but you're looking at that Newcastle team and you're seeing a lot of vulnerabilities in there. But yeah, they can hurt us for sure. as well. They're a good side, a well coached side. From set pieces as well, they don't carry a huge amount of threat, but again, you just don't really know. They've scored 11 set piece goals this season, which is quite a lot, actually. But
Especially against
But then
Spurs
again,
as well.
I didn't realise we've scored 11 goals from set pieces. Have we? I don't remember.
Bloody hell.
You can't find me 11 goals that we've scored from set pieces this season. Surely not. But anyway, they will carry a threat against us. But I think we should be confident going there. I just think the like you touched on before. I think the anxiety around this game is to do with the factors outside of what's going to happen on the pitch, because we've got these predetermined thoughts about Spurs in 12:30 kickoffs and this fucking third kit and all that sort of stuff, which has been a lot about. But no, I'm confident. I'm confident.
Well, last year it was this fixture that after it was that quote where it's like, "I am Christian Stellini. I am the manager of Tottenham," and it's like you get like proper PTSD. Like, 'cause fuck me, we were in the trenches after that fixture.
Yeah,
that was atrocious.
Lloris coming off at half time.
Oh my god, that Danny Rose reaction to like Lloris having the interview at full time or something. Like, oh my god, we were done. And it just shows that like what an achievement to even be where we are now. In literally 365 days. So, Newcastle, they really remind me actually of like Liverpool of maybe 3-4 years ago. When they have their strongest team, in the fact that they can capitalise in any situation. They're really good at breaking down. They're relentless in their attacks. They're really good at breaking down low blocks, and they're really effective on the counter attack. Like you said. What did you say that stat was? Five goals from, is it? Five goals
on the counter attack.
Yeah, exactly. So, but obviously they have that trick of, but Trippier is so fundamental in this, and obviously Livramento's out as well. But they have that trick of making almost like a false overlapping run, keep moving that back line, and then someone comes short and they whip it in and capitalise. They're really really good at in their attack, and if you think back at our fixture against them, if that Ben Davis recovery tackle, last man slide tackle that nicked the ball away from that man coming in the back post, Newcastle would have been 1-0 up and it could have been a different game. So we just got to be really sure in our defence, and because they can hurt us in multiple different ways. It is just that their team is dismantled at the moment and their defence is there to be got at, and I feel like Brennan Johnson, Werner, they'll be licking their lips. What fullbacks were they playing? Kraft, maybe Hall, Lewis Hall. Yeah, I mean they're there to be got at. And I'm confident, but then it is just that sort of PTSD, just that shadow, just hanging over you of how bad last year was going to this fixture. But the good thing is, the bulk of the players that were in that fixture aren't here anymore. We've got a much more fearless team, so I'm hoping we can. Obviously, I'm hoping we can come away with 3 points, but I'm hoping that there'll be areas in that game that we can harm them. So how are we going to harm them?
I think we can harm them with our pace on the counter-attack, the ability to kind of penetrate the space in behind. Like it's a makeshift back four, like I said, and they want to sit deep and hurt us, but I don't think they're good enough to do that with the defence that they have got. And when I say hurt us, I mean sit deep and kind of then be able to spring on the counter-attack and try and soak up pressure. But I think it's one of those things where Spurs need to go there and play the game in their half for the most of it. Continuous pressure. West Ham were able to hurt them on the transition, but I think we're good enough if we're able to sort of... I know people get a little bit annoyed about Spurs' kind of maybe overpassing or overplaying sometimes, but I think if we're able to play the game in their half, centre-backs high up the pitch with that recovery pace from Van der Ven, I think we go and win this game. I do think we go and win this game. Spurs play to the best of their ability, like we did against Newcastle at home. I think we raise it in these bigger games. I think we've shown a lot of big performances against the tougher opposition this season, of which Newcastle are one of them. I think we can hurt them. I think Maddison, again, I'm looking for Maddison to step up that little bit more. Maybe this is the game where he does it for Tottenham. And again, they're going to look to sort of put a lot on him. So then that opens up space for other players. But yeah, I think we can cause them some some damage with, especially with Johnson and Werner running at the fullbacks and kind of getting in behind. I could see that sort of combination working pretty well again for Spurs. But again, a lot of it maybe depends on the fitness of Richarlison. We're recording the pod on Thursday. We haven't got round to it, we haven't seen Postecoglou's press conference yet. We'll find out tomorrow whether Richarlison is fit to play. He was hoping that he would be. Not really seeing any training pictures or anything either. So Richarlison could be back in contention, but again, I don't think he'll be fit enough to start. So you'd imagine it'll be Johnson, Son, and probably Werner from the front as we kind of look to kind of go there and dominate and hurt them in those areas. But again, Lewis Hall on that left-hand side, smaller, younger player. Maybe it's Kulusevski's physicality and dominance that's able to hurt him down that side as well. Maybe he'll be happier against someone like Johnson. Maybe he feels like he can sort of match him up a little bit more physically. And again, in a game where you're going to want to keep the ball in their half as much as possible, Kulusevski's ball retention goes under the radar massively in these kind of games. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does. But I think we can get at them big time. And I think they'll have a hard time. We've spoken a lot about Sonny as that number 9 against big centre backs, of which Dan Burn is one of them. But there's big, and then there's kind of. I think this is a game where Dan Burn could be made to look quite clumsy when you've got a nippy sort of striker like Sonny buzzing in and around him. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game. I think it could be a little bit like the Newcastle West Ham one a few weeks ago. I think it could be a bit of a mad one, but I can see us coming out on top. I feel quite confident.
Yeah, we've just got to nullify every like chance of attack they have, and we got to frustrate the crowd, because once that crowd gets going, it is a fortress. I actually think they got probably one of the best fan bases in the league when it comes to that adding that 12th man, and I mean they celebrate tackles, they celebrate throw-ins. We can't let it get like that. We need to frustrate them, just like we did against Villa. We kind of made it quite ugly, kept the ball for as long as possible, and then bang, bang, couple of quick fire goals, and we prevented that ground from becoming hostile. Which again we're going to have to do again this game. We've got to be smart in our game management, just in the way of just slowing them down and frustrating them. So the rumours are that they're going to have to sell a key player due to FFP. Are there any players that suit our system perfectly? But obviously, you've already said in this ep that you're a massive fan of Alexander Isak. Are there any other players? And then talk about Isak as well, how he'd fit in the system.
Yeah, I think Isak and Gordon are the main two. Like, you're looking at someone like Guimaraes, but again, I'm not sure. Obviously, there's been a lot of chat around Spurs needing a 6. I'm not sure Guimaraes is that, and I'm not sure he's obviously an incredible player, but I'm not sure whether he can sort of hold that position down on his own, really. And I think actually at times he's been exposed quite a lot this season on the transition. So Guimaraes is a great player, but he's not someone I'd be looking at if Spurs were to make an upgrade. Whereas I think Isak definitely would be for sure in terms of adding something to that front line. We spoke about this on the lab yesterday in the sense that I don't think Spurs should sign a striker unless it's an obvious upgrade to what we've already got. Because I think I'm very happy with our options at the moment. But there is definitely a chance of an upgrade there with Richarlison for sure, as much as we all love him. So I think Isak would be the man for me. But I'm a massive fan of Anthony Gordon. I really think I think there's this sense that because people don't really like him sometimes, he's a little bit of an irritant, and he does like to wind players up, and he can be a bit of a dickhead. He's a very good player. And like I said before, like there was a long-standing interest from Spurs before he went to Newcastle. And I do think if you fast forward, say if Postecoglou was maybe instated, or any sort of maybe even if it wasn't Ange, like someone who wanted to play on that front foot a little bit more. And obviously Newcastle kind of had more to offer than Spurs did at the time where Gordon went there. Didn't he go? Was it last January he went there?
I can't remember, but at Paratici's talent ID, mate. Because I remember when he was being linked with Spurs for quite a lot of money, and it must have been.
There was a talk of a double deal. Like they were, when we were in talk with Richarlison, there was rumours of like a double. We were linked with him in the January before, when Dele Alli went to Everton. And then in the summer, when we were working on the Richarlison deal, there was talks of like a double deal with Gordon and Richarlison, which would have been mental.
That would be quality.
And was very unlikely to happen, but it would have been great. Yeah, I think Anthony Gordon has really kind of matured into an excellent player who I just think, unfortunately for him, in terms of England, I think there's a lot of players kind of in that same position. But I think over the next couple of years, I think you'll see him continue to grow. I really, really like him. So aggressive, so direct, loves to cut inside, likes to penetrate the space in behind, but also isn't afraid to take on his man. I think he's a proper winger. I really like him. Obviously, Harvey Barnes is back as well for Newcastle at the moment. He came off the bench again on their game, or in their game against Fulham on Saturday. So again, on the counter-attack, Gordon and Barnes, if Barnes does start, it might be Murphy on that right-hand side, but that's a pretty dangerous front three when you've got Gordon, Isak and Barnes all there.
Another one we were linked with as well.
Harvey Barnes again.
The double deal.
Double deal. What is it with Spurs and bloody double deals? Double down it. But yeah, man, Isak is the one. I just think when you look at the amount of quality that he has, it's one of those things where I said this on the lab yesterday. It shouldn't really, when you look at his kind of profile, it kind of shouldn't work because he's a little bit of everything in the sense that he's almost like he's 6'2", I want to say. He's that perfect kind of blend of a poacher, an aerial threat, but also that dribbly forward. And I think if Spurs are looking at upgrading that front line and almost killing off two birds with one stone as someone that can play out wide as well, which he has done for Newcastle multiple times when Wilson's in the team, you have to find a way to fit them both in. He's an incredible technician, lightning quick, deadly finisher. So yeah, I think he's probably my number one target, kind of out of all those options for Spurs.
Yeah, I think the most. I have my doubts over Isak. He's unbelievable. I love watching play. He's one of those players that he's box office. Yeah. I got a few doubts just because it's just it's his injuries. He is injured an awful lot, and I think that's some of the frustrations with Richarlison because as soon as Richarlison hits form, and I love Richarlison and I want him to do so well for Spurs. I'm so happy he has done this season, but as soon as he sort of reaches form, he'll have a little injury setback, and then it's that reset of trying to get back in the team and then finding your form again. And with Isak, his position isn't always going to be nailed down with the likes of Son playing through the middle now and again. And I just think he'll if he has those injury problems, there might not be that much of a difference between him and Richarlison. And I don't know if he is a massive. I don't think he's that dominant in the air. I think he's even said in an interview with Sky, I think at the beginning of the season or at the end of last season, that his weakness probably is his heading. I don't know. You probably watched him more than me, but I don't know if he's improved on that. But is he that much? Is he a worry? Is he a hustler in the box? Is he someone that's going to put off those big centre backs like we were crying out for against West Ham? Is he that type of player?
Yeah. Not as much as Toney, maybe. Not as much as Toney, but I just think in terms of the overall package, I think he's incredible. I really like Isak. Just again, the kind of like dexterity that he kind of gives you in that front line, he can sort of play anywhere across it. I think he's a nightmare sometimes. But again, like you said, I think his aerial ability, I'd be interested to see how many goals out of this. So he scored 15 goals in the Premier League this season. Let's have a quick look.
I feel like he has scored a few headers.
Let's have a look. He scored 4 headers. Out of the 15 goals. A couple of them in and around the 6-yard box. One from, when was that? Against Chelsea from miles out, set piece. He scored 4 headers. When you look at his goal map, a lot of them have kind of come from in and around the penalty area, but he's also got a couple where he's kind of coming from outside and been able to, it gives you that as well, like on the break, that sort of Sonny-esque finishing from outside the box.
Maybe he has
I think
improved
he's
in that
really
area,
cultured, Isak. And again, he's one. I think so. And I think he's one of those ones where if Spurs are able to soak up pressure in games and hit teams on the counter attack, he is such a weapon in that left channel. I think we've seen it. I remember his debut against Liverpool last season where he scored, but he had a goal disallowed where he's put in over the top. He was marginally offside. And interestingly, today, before we were about to record, the Premier League have announced that they're going to be introducing semi-automatic offside technology from next season. But yeah. I remember there was a goal that he scored where if he gets played in down that left channel, he's a nightmare to stop, a real nightmare, because he's almost got, this is a bold claim, but at 24 years old, he's kind of got that Henry feel about him. He's that similar sort of player. Wears the same number as well. I know we shouldn't be fucking bigging up the Gooners on there, but in terms of profile, and I think that's why Arsenal fans really want him, and I can see it. I do see it. He makes me nervous whenever we play against them, which I mean, there's a very small sample size. But again, last season he was just ridiculous. Yeah. We were all over the place. But yeah, no, I fancy him, mate. I do like him. He would be my number one for sure. The Swedish link up with Kulusevski as well.
He's got an aura.
He has got an aura. That's what it is. Him and Toney have got an aura.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it'd be one of those two
That
for me. But if we're talking about Newcastle, it'd be Isak.
that confidence leading the line. Yeah, I like what you said about Gimirish because I think he's a fantastic player, but I think there's similarities between him and Douglas Luiz in the fact that a lot of people might see him as a six. Their best position is not a six. Their best position is a number 8, box to box, and we've got too many players in that number 8 position. And yeah, when they're isolated, like they would be in the Spurs system, if they're isolated in the number 6 position, you'd actually see more vulnerabilities than strengths, I think. With both those players, they're both fantastic players, both players that might even be on the move in the summer, but Spurs just I don't think are the right fit for those two. I think we need more of a destroyer. Again, we're going to get onto number 6 later in this episode. But yeah, Anthony Gordon would have been perfect. I don't think he's going to leave. Harvey Barnes is the same. But I like Livramento. I know there's been a lot of comparisons or forced comparisons from Newcastle fans about Porro and Livramento. Obviously, Porro's clear, but if you're looking for an understudy for Porro or someone that can play on both fullbacks, again, I know he's a new signing, but they might have to sell. And I know he's quite injury prone himself actually, but he's quite a good young homegrown talent to sort of he'd cover both positions. I think that'd be a smart signing, but. Yeah, Isak's one of those players. Your eyes light up when you hear him. He is box office, and he has that aura. Someone that leads the line and has that swagger about him, but that confidence. So yeah, he's definitely an appealing player. I've got a couple of doubts over him, but just because there's quite a few struggles on the market. Who will be our most important player in this team then? And also, will there be any surprise faces in the team like Højbjerg? Obviously, Højbjerg come on against. Not in Forest and looked overall quite decent. Him and Bentancur.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Bentancur will probably start. I think obviously, as much as we've talked about Maddison and maybe the struggles that he's kind of having over the last few weeks, and maybe not getting back up to the full. He's all realising kind of the full potential that we saw from him in the first 10 games. I think that Maddison will definitely play. So I think it's then you're kind of limited to those two positions. I think we haven't quite seen the same perhaps Sarr in the last few weeks, but again, a couple of people have kind of pointed out. Obviously, he obviously would have been doing Ramadan, which I think has a massive impact on people's fitness. And again, obviously, it was Eid yesterday, so that period is now over. So he's able to maybe get his body back up to the level that it was. And I think people don't realise how much of a toll that must take. I'd said it before, but like. How players who are observing Ramadan go through that as a professional footballer in the Premier League, I think is crazy, absolutely crazy. But yeah, maybe I think Bentancur will play because I think that this is a game that Spurs. I think as much as it might be quite transitional based, like I said, I think Spurs are going to want to have that same level of control that they had against Aston Villa. I think it's a really good point that you brought up earlier about the Villa game, the Villa away game, because people were a bit frustrated in that first half against Villa of like, we've got all the ball, but are we doing anything with it? Are we doing anything with it? That's what these teams do. That's what Pep Guardiola's teams do. That's what Arsenal do. Like you have that element of control where you're able to pull teams all over the place slowly but surely by playing the game in their half. And then when the game starts to open up because they feel like they feel like they're being suffocated, they want to come out, that's when you pounce. And I think it could be quite similar. So for that reason, I would not be surprised to see Pierre Højbjerg play because I think as that almost deep-lying playmaker in that number 6, as that sort of single pivot, we've seen in home, I remember I was watching some clips from the Fulham home game the other day when Højbjerg started and his ability to just sit there and just dictate the play, one touch, balls out wide, keeping the team in, being that sort of anchor at the back with Romero and Van der Ven almost either side of him if a team decides to spring on the counter-attack if we give the ball away. I think his ball retention is very good. And I don't think it's going to be a midfield that's going to worry me personally too much in terms of him coming under too much pressure. I think he's going to have quite a bit of time to get on it and make things happen. Whereas I think sometimes with Basuma in these games where teams sit off, that's where that kind of instinct comes out of Basuma a little bit more. We were talking about this on Holly's Hotspurs on Monday, which was a really good episode to do. I really enjoyed it. We were talking about Basuma and maybe that lack of tactical discipline at times, and maybe he's actually better in the bigger games because he's playing on instinct and he doesn't have as much time to do these things. And that's why he's such an incredibly press-resistant player. We don't see that kind of same... It sounds harsh to say this, but emotional immaturity, as I kind of described it, as Bentancur, who's able to kind of do both in those sorts of games. So I think Højbjerg and Bentancur might well play. I think they should play, personally. I'd quite like to see that. I think Sarr, maybe it's a good time to give him a rest. You've got to remember, he's a young kid as well. He's been so important to us, but maybe a good time to sort of give him a little bit of a rest going into 2 weeks off before the Arsenal game, get these players back up to kind of full sharpness before that. So, yeah, I would quite like to see Højbjerg and Bentancur given a go, because I think it's going to be a possession-based game for Spurs rather than one where we look to sort of maybe hit them. I liked what I saw from Basuma and Bentancur away at West Ham. And again, if it's Basuma and Bentancur, I feel fine about that for sure. But I'd quite like to see Højbjerg get given a go. I thought he made a massive impact alongside Bentancur on Saturday. I think Bentancur, God, how many times have I just said his name? I think he will definitely start on Saturday, but I think it will be Basuma or Højbjerg. But I'd quite like to see Højbjerg. And I think actually he could be one of our most important players. But again, we've said it week after week now. I'm waiting for Maddison to be that most important player. I feel like me and you both said it before the Luton game. We both said it before the Forest game. We both said it before West Ham. And when we do this every week, saying who's going to be the most important player. And I think every time we've probably said Maddison. And again, it's just we're not kind of seeing that. We're not sort of seeing that. But there's reasons for that. So I'd like to see it from Maddison, but I think it's one way or the other. I think it's going to be the midfield. It's going to be whoever plays in that midfield.
Yeah, I reckon there's going to be a lot of players that need to step up. A lot of players. I think Werner against Croft is one of those players that can really get us going, electric on the front foot, running at a defender, trying to put a lot of pressure on him straight from the get go. We need to stun him in some way, and I think Werner is that sort of. At the moment, he's actually pivotal in the way we do attack. A lot of the time, you'll either get it down to Werner, and then Johnson gets into that space, Son, and then Bentancur, whoever's that number 8, penetrates the box as well. And I think Werner could have the better of Croft a lot in this game. I think Porro as well. Again, obviously he scored against Nottingham Forest. He had a decent game. Maybe he hasn't been at the performances that he was showing, say, when we played Newcastle last. He's still been fundamental to us, and this game he's going to be up against Gordon, Harvey Barnes. He's going to be very, very busy. So his defensive work is going to have to be spot on, and then his contribution in attack as well. Same with a Doggy. And the centre backs, like we were saying, Isak's such a handful where there's a little bit of space in behind, and when they're trying to break down if we are camped in our box, he is still a handful in the box. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just going to be one for all round. The teams is going to have to be on the top of their game. I don't know if there's going to be a standout player of importance. I think everyone is going to have to put a shift in because there's battles all over the pitch. Yeah, midfield. The point about Højbjerg is a good point. If they're on the transition, Højbjerg is better than Bissouma 100%. I think he's better at snuffing out counter attacks. But although I think both of them share this similar trait in that they both lose their man quite a lot. Their runners in behind a lot of the time. If they get blindsided with a run in behind them, I think they both have a tendency to switch off. And Newcastle could harm us with maybe Longstaff running in, penetrating the box from deep, and Højbjerg losing his man, maybe switching off, ball watching. I think Bissouma has the same trait, so I think that's one of the ways they could harm us. And I think I really feel like that could be a way they do score against us. I think that we might see that because I don't think either one of those players do read those situations well. But I think Højbjerg would edge Bissouma in this game. I don't think he'll start. I think he'd edge Bissouma in this game in the fact that he can disrupt counter-attacks a little bit more effectively than Bissouma. Maddison again. Yeah, he has to step up. He has to. Kulusevski actually had a really good game in the reverse fixture against Newcastle, playing in Maddison's position, and Kulusevski will be so eager to do that again. But Maddison, how many performances does he have before maybe Kulusevski's given a go or Lo Celso's given a go? He really has to step up. And I feel like there might be a little bit of pressure mounting on Maddison because there is a queue for that position. So yeah, I think it's one of those games where all of our players are as important as each other. I don't think there's going to be a standout player. I think it's going to be one of those games where we all have to step up. But if we do, I think we won't have any problems. It's just, I don't know. I've got a weird feeling going into the game. Moving on then to the transfer news that we've been getting over the last week. there actually has been quite a few stories that have sort of emerged from different journalists. The first one being Nico Williams. So I think it was the Telegraph, was it? Mike McGrath of the Telegraph, saying that Spurs have been monitoring Nico Williams. There's a few interested teams in the Premier League. How we know he would be perfect in this system. We know he's that 1v1 specialist that we're crying out for so desperately. Break down why he'd be such a perfect fit for Ange, and how significant would this signing be for ambition and in relation to a title charge next season? Obviously, it's £43 million, the buyout clause in the summer. How significant would that signing be? How much of a marquee signing would that be?
I think it'll be significant in the sense that we certainly won't be the only club in for him. I think Barcelona, Chelsea have all been linked. Arsenal have been linked as well. There'll be a lot of people kind of queuing up to sign him. Obviously, I think he signed a new contract recently, which inserted that release clause into it with 43 million for the quality of player that we have seen so far this season, especially at Atletico Bilbao. I think he's what we need. Me and you have been asked a hell of a lot about Aberieze, and as have I personally on my channel and stuff. And I absolutely love Aberieze. I have doubts about whether he could play left wing in this system, but I think Williams, I just think he can play on the right, he can play on the left, he can go on both sides. He's brave, he likes to dribble at players, he loves to carry the ball really well. He's got that explosive kind of burst of pace, loves to drive into the penalty area. I think he's won more, or certainly up there in terms of winning penalties in La Liga this season. I think he's got the joint most assists in the league as well for them this season in the whole league. He's an excellent ball carrier from what I've seen. And he's just so exciting. I think we need that unpredictable, explosive kind of winger that's going to add that extra sort of element. You know, Doku is that sort of profile that Spurs should be after. I'm not saying obviously Spurs aren't going to sign Doku, but we were linked with him last summer. So there is clear interest from Spurs in that kind of player. They didn't get their guy last summer. They obviously wanted Brennan Johnson anyway. They didn't get the sort of Doku's type winger that they were looking for. So I think that will come back around again. Obviously, Paul O'Keefe put out a tweet. It was one of his deep thread reply bombers that everyone seems to absolutely love, saying about sort of essentially outlining Spurs' plans for the summer. And I believe from memory, it was a winger, a striker, depending on what happens with Richarlison, a sort of defensive-minded midfielder, and then potentially another centre-back. And obviously we talk about there's been links to Tosin Adebayo and Amadou Onana as well. But I think in terms of Williams, I just think that who knows what he's going to be like if he came to the Premier League, but I do think it's one that Spurs will definitely look to get done. You can't help but be excited when you watch him. I understand why people have reservations. You know, he's not got that Premier League proven nature about him, but no, I'm excited about Williams. I think he could be the guy. In terms of a title charge, we don't know. We just don't know. I think that's the sort of profile that Spurs are missing, and if he can come in and be that guy, then who knows what Spurs can achieve. And again, a lot of it is down to the kind of context of what's happening around Tottenham, whether obviously with Klopp leaving, how well Liverpool get on next season. Will Guardiola leave at the end of the season? Probably not. Will Arsenal be able to kick on if they fail to win the league this year? Who knows? So it's going to be a really interesting kind of landscape overall in the Premier League next season. Obviously, Chelsea, I'd imagine, will get better. I can't see United challenging for the title. So I think there's an opportunity for Spurs. And I think these kind of signings will definitely get Spurs closer to that. It's just about what's happening around us.
Yeah, I think it would be a smart decision all round. I think Spurs are actually probably the perfect move for Nico Williams in terms of our trajectory. The system we play in, the role he'd be deployed in, it would get all his best attributes. It would get the best out of him. And obviously he's so young. He really fits our data analysis sort of led structure in our recruitment. He's 21, is he? 21? He can play both wings. Yeah. He's that 1v1 specialist. I like what you're saying about his similarities to Doku and the fact that he's unpredictable. You need to double up on him because otherwise he'll run through the team. But I think he's got more of an end product than Doku, and I think he's more decisive in his crosses. I think his crosses are ridiculously impressive from his highlight reel. I'm not going to pretend like I sit here and watch La Liga week in, week out, but from what I've seen of him, and obviously the assists back it up, he is very decisive in the final third. And he has a bit of a goal record as well. For a 21-year-old, he's outstanding. And I think it would be the perfect move for Spurs and to show that ambition, because there will be a lot of clubs after him. But I do think we would be perfect for him because we can guarantee game time time. He'd get the best out of Brennan Johnson. We talked about this before, how we could turn Brennan Johnson into that Sterling type player where you almost want to reduce as much as possible his amount of time on the ball. So Nico Williams will want the ball all the time. He'll want the ball at feet. He'll want to be running that defence. They'll have to double up on him, and that will shift the defence over to that side, allowing space to penetrate the back post like Brennan Johnson does so brilliantly and score that archetype goal. And I think we'll get the best out of Brennan Johnson. He'd be able to score so many goals just from being alone in the box. If we sign an Ivan Toney, we're going to get onto him. He would really benefit having a winger like Nico Williams, drawing those defenders to him, whipping in a great cross. And I just think all round it does show that ambition. And it's a position where we are crying out for, that position to grab a game by the scruff of the neck, and sort of carry us through those games where we're trying to beat a low block and we're looking predictable. He adds that unpredictability. I think he'd be perfect, and he's only going to get better. And in five, it is a prospect signing. The potential he has is frightening. We're seeing these levels in the Liga, and he's tearing like Barcelona apart, and he's tearing these big clubs, Galacticos apart. What's he going to be like in 5 years? It's scary, and I think his injury record's really good as well. I know he's 21, but he seems to be fit. Like, I mean, if he's anything like his brother Nico Williams, what was that consecutive games or seasons that Nico Williams played without being injured? Yeah, if he's got the same genetics, we're in for something here for 43 million.
Yeah.
I think it's a no-brainer. Although if it's a buyout clause, normally you have to pay that with no installments. You have to pay that up front. I think it's worth it. I think it's a no-brainer because he's exactly what we need. And if you're going to look at another player like Pedro Neto, he would be perfect, but he's not fit. And he's never fit, and he would cost 60 million. So you might as well buy. I know there's a risk of, hang on, he's not Premier League proven, but he's got the physicality to play in the Premier League. He's got the pace. He's got the attacking instinct and that, and he's got the end product to play in the Premier League. I think he's a perfect Premier League winger, and I think he'd excite not even Spurs fans, but the rest of the Premier League and neutrals around the world watching Spurs games, because he'd add that icing on the cake of why you want to watch Spurs. We'd be an unbelievable team with him in the system, I think, and he's definitely the type. If we don't get him, he's definitely the type of player we need to be going for. I don't think there's any debate around that. Another link, well, not a link because I haven't seen too many links, but there's rumours, aren't there, about Ivan Toney coming to Spurs or being available. Plettenberg reported yesterday. He's part of Sky German, isn't he, Plettenberg? He reported.
Oh yes.
He reported yesterday that Ivan Toney would be available at the moment in this current place that we're in right now, heading into the summer. His price range is between 30 to 40 million. Do you actually see a deal like that happening for that price? Because Paul O'Keefe come out saying, do people believe that that's actually true? Because I think I was shocked when I saw that. Two, does that make it a no-brainer for Spurs? And how realistic do you think Ivan Toney to Spurs is?
I think it is quite realistic because of the striker market, in the sense that I think when you look at Arsenal, for example, who will apparently be on the hunt for a new number 9, I think it's quite public what their options are in terms of Isak and Gyökeres, 2 players that they've been looking at a hell of a lot. I said it a few weeks ago. I think that Toney, obviously there's been actual links to West Ham. I wouldn't be surprised to see him there, just purely because of the fact that when you go through the top 6, other than Tottenham, there is a need for, like I said, other than Arsenal maybe, there's a striker need there, but I think they're going to be fishing in a slightly bigger pond of maybe someone that's maybe younger, like a Gyökeres or like a Isak. And again, Gyökeres is going to be 26 in the summer, so he's not a spring chicken, but he's coming into his prime for sure. Well, he is a spring chicken, but he's not a kid, Isak's 24. Toney's 28, and I think one of the things, we talked about this on the Fighting Cock, and we talked about this on the Lab as well, in the sense that, like, Spurs having this data-driven approach to transfers, and kind of the way that we've almost gone in the last few years under Protege, and obviously Lang has kind of continued that. When you look at the signings of Bergvall and you look at the signings of Dragusin, obviously Werner was slightly different, but again, that's a data-driven approach, absolutely, with someone like Werner. Maybe not so much as some of the younger lads. Maybe it was a bit of more of an opportunistic signing. But just because Toney is 28, I don't think we can ignore that. I think we should. Toney's age shouldn't come into this, in my opinion. You've got a Premier League proven striker ready there who I think would fit the system pretty well. I don't think you'd even have to start him every single game. I think it allows you to give Sonny a chance back out wide, but also on the bench because he's going to be 32 going into next season as well. So again, I think the Toney thing makes sense kind of all round, really. I think it's just about the behaviour issues. And I think, actually, I thought this before. I think that if Toney does get that move to the bigger club that he's so desperately craving, I think you see a lot less of that. I think you do see a lot less of that because he's got what he wants. He's got what he wants. You could argue that it was a big club at Newcastle before, but they weren't a big club at the time. You know, they were really struggling and obviously loaned out a hell of a lot and all that kind of stuff. And again, I think I flip-flopped on this quite a lot because I was starting to get really sick of Ivan Toney and really sick of the stuff that he was coming out with.
Yeah, me too.
My opinion hasn't really changed on him, but again, that's sometimes because you almost forget that and you forget how good he actually is. And when he came back from the ban and obviously makes the instant impact with a free kick, again, that's something that Spurs should look at in terms of his ability to strike the ball outside of the box as well is incredible. A few unbelievable goals last season. I remember one chip against Leeds and a free kick as well. I think he's just an all-round package. I think for England as well, he is the natural backup to Kane. I think in terms of what they can both do in terms of occupying defenders. And I think we spoke about this yesterday, like in terms of when you look at recent games at Spurs, and I think the immediate name that comes into your mind in terms of what maybe Spurs are missing is someone like a Toney. Can I see him going for 30 to 40 million? No, but excuse me. I was trying to.
I thought you were going to make a really good point there. You sort of paused and you were like, but.
No, I was trying to put that off as long as possible. And that's why Spurs should sign Ivan Toney, because he makes you do that. No, but I think that, yeah, I think he's the all-round package. And I think that, like you said, I think he would benefit from having someone like a Nico Williams as well. I do like it. I do like the idea of it. Yeah. It was interesting. Flav said this yesterday, and through, you know, I'm not going to claim that I'm an ITK or anything like that, but I heard from probably similar people that there was a lot of rumours going around 3 or 4 months ago that Toney was a done deal to Spurs. Effectively, it was going to happen in the summer. There was quite a few people that were saying that. But, and again, I think it's gone quiet, and there's been links to West Ham, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'd keep an eye out for Toney. I would not be surprised if Toney is a Spurs player next season. I would not be surprised, especially at that kind of cut price. Because Flav made this great point. Toney has lost all of the bargaining power for Brentford.
Yeah,
all
of
the
leverage.
Power. They were holding out. All the leverage is gone. They were holding out for £100 million, which they were never going to get in January anyway. And that's just a way of protecting his value when the summer does come around, because nobody was going to touch him in January. Nobody was going to touch him for £100 million. But they think they might still get 80 odd.
That's
chance for what he's done in terms of exactly. So, but then again, I do think the 30 to 40. I think the 30 to 40 is. I can't see that either. I think it'll be between 50 and 60, somewhere in the middle of that.
20 mil plus Regulon.
Yep.
He's done all right, isn't he?
Let me tell you about a little player called Brian Hill. Brentford.
You will love him. You absolutely love him. And he'll be a good mate for Sergio Regulon as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we definitely could use Regulon in a deal, maybe to just lower that price. I can't see him going for anything less than 50. I think 30 million is fucking extreme. Like that, 30 million is for a level of Ivan Toney. It's unheard of. I mean, I know he's got 1 year left of his contract, but I mean that's if they sell him in next January. They're not going to sell him for less than 50 mil in the summer. I mean, that's just a joke. His age doesn't bother me either. I think he's never been a player that relied on his pace. He does have pace to him. He's not lightning quick, but he's not a player. You can see him as he gets older, just maintaining the levels he's achieved over the last couple of years. And his link up play is perfect. His hold up play is perfect. He is a ready made goal machine that will just add to this sort of collection of great attackers that we're adding to this team. We'll have the depth. Imagine the depth with Toney, Son, the different dynamic they'll add to each other. The Son getting in behind if we play a team that plays high up, or Toney just being a hustler in the box. It'd be almost unstoppable. And then you have the collection of wingers. If we bring in like a Nico Williams or someone in that sort of that type of player, and then Johnson on the wing, Kulusevski coming in adds that different dynamic. Werner adds that different dynamic. We will have an amalgamation of attacking options, and it would be like really hard to stop. So I think it's ideal. Is again, I mean, how many times we heard it? It is the Ange test. Will he pass the Ange test? And what is a red flag is that when Ange was talking about Vicario, obviously he said that he'd signed for Spurs in blood, and we were linked with Raya, and there was that massive the reaction of, we're moving on from David Raya. We want Vicario, and Ange come out and said, sort of alluded to that situation and said, well, we were after a player, and he was wanting to move away from Brentford more than actually wanting to sign for Spurs. And I can kind of see that with Toney. He's gagging for that top six move, isn't he? So is it just, does Spurs want me then? I'll go play for Spurs, or is it? I want to play for Ange. But I feel like he'd look at Spurs this season and think, how many goals would I get for Ange Postecoglou? And how many goals would I get for Tottenham?
Yeah.
And it would be ridiculous. And also his assists, he'd be able to bring those players into the game. He'd be able to bring the midfield penetrating into the box. I'm thinking of the Man United equaliser where he touched the ball dead, like Berbatov, who actually he said as well, Defoe, Berbatov are two of the three of his idols growing up. So he's got that sort of Spurs he likes those Spurs strikers, so maybe he can become one. But yeah, touched the ball dead, held a couple players off, shift onto his right, cut it back. And you can imagine Sarr, Bentancur penetrating the box late, him bringing them into play. He would be perfect. It is just whether he passes the Ange test of personality. How much does he want to sign for Tottenham? If he's just coming to Tottenham because he wants to move away from Brentford, he's not it. We need a player that wants to play specifically for Spurs, and if he does, then get him in.
That's a very good point.
Paul O'Keefe,
and also it kind of goes. Sorry, go on. I was going to say it kind of goes alongside the fact that Ange Sorry, I'll get my words out. What Ange was saying about Vicario and Raya and what you've kind of said there is spot on, and it also is kind of coupled with the fact that obviously there's been the questions around Ange talking about the Champions League and saying about how we don't want players to come to Tottenham just because it's we're going to be in the Champions League and they want to play Champions League football. It's coupled exactly with that. That's a great point that's worth bringing up. But like you say, Toney might be looking at Spurs thinking, I would score a lot of goals in that side.
Yeah,
I would score a lot, and I think that's a great point in terms of like runners into the box. That goal, the Man United goal, is a perfect example of the one that he set up. Will be a perfect example of when you look at. I made a video on TikTok talking about Tottenham's kind of attacking threat without having that proper number 9 in Harry Kane, and saying we've potentially become a more well-rounded attack. And I put a screen grab up of the Pedro Porro goal. Look how many players are in the box when Maddison crosses the ball. There's about 5 or 6 players in the box. And that just shows you that if Toney is someone in there, obviously it's a completely different situation in that moment where the game's a lot more open, etc., etc., etc. But the fact that you've got players willing to get in there in those positions, and then you've got a striker who you can play off. I think it's a recipe. I think Toney would be a real addition to Spurs if you could kind of cut out all the other stuff. I also just wanted to say, Will, we've just hit 100 subscribers on YouTube, mate.
Oh, that's fucking class. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. That's really good. That's quality. Thank you.
Let's fucking go, guys. Let's fucking go, guys.
But the point about Toney's, like what you were saying, is correct, because he'd occupy at least 2 defenders. And if you've got a Nico Williams on a wing occupying 2 players, because you're going to need to double up on him, you got to double up on Toney in the midfield. How many players you got left? That's 4 of your 10 outfield players on 2 of our new signings. Yeah. So then
running out of hands. How many more of them are there?
Yeah, Johnson's at the back post. You don't want to leave it to. You don't want him having a free effort at the back post. Porro's lining up, getting in for those that Aurier-esque finish. Then you've got Bentancur, Sarr penetrating the box. We become unstoppable, I think, and I think they would be the missing pieces to the jigsaw puzzle, and then you'd sort of see this whole picture come to life that we've sort of been putting together.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is, though? It's like City in the sense that you almost forget how many players they've got on the... Sorry, that doesn't make sense. You almost feel like they've got more players on the pitch than they should do sometimes. And that's what Spurs, I think, can create. I think that's a great point about, like, you can't mark them all. You can't mark all of them.
Yeah.
You know, someone's got to be free, and I think that's what Toney does. I think that's what Toney
You've
does
got to
really, really well.
overwhelm them. You've got to overwhelm them. Too many
What's the worst
issues
thing
on the pitch.
What's the worst thing he could say in Ibiza in the summer when he gets filmed by a randomer that would still make you want him to sign for Spurs? What's the worst thing he could say? Could he say like fuck Ange Postecoglou?
No, it can't come after. It can't come after Ange. Yeah.
Aussie wanker. Like, do you think he could say that and you'd still want him to sign? Is he that good?
Nah.
You've got to put it behind you, haven't you, mate? You just got to let these things go.
Can't hold a grudge. I mean, think of the goals he scored.
Exactly.
Nah, I mean,
Sorry, Gaffer.
I wouldn't. I don't know. Even if he said "fuck Tottenham," and Sam Cornish said, I can't remember. He put in a reply. I think it was for the Lab or the Fight Call. He was saying that like you could just see him saying, "What do we think of Tottenham?" in like our beef for
like
just to get some
or something.
Yeah, just to get a bit of pum pum. I mean, I just think like
exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. But, I'm stealing that of John Bass, to be fair, off the Fight Cock.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can see him doing that. That's what it's going to give you anxiety, in it, having a player like that. He's like a ticking time bomb of what's he going to fucking say about the club. But if he gets, like you're saying, if he gets that big move, maybe he won't do that. So Paul O'Keefe was linking us to Amadou Onana, number 6. It looks like a vital position that we're going to try and improve on in the summer. You're torn on him, aren't you, as a potential signing? Why is that? And why do you think he's a player that's been identified?
I think it's clear to see why he's a player that's been identified for sure. I think he's got incredible bags of potential. Onana, I really, really do. I just worry when you look at Everton, he's not really played as that single pivot sort of number 6. He's always played with Garner Gay or James Garner. I've not seen him necessarily dominate on his own in that midfield, which is something that he would be required to do in this system a little bit more. I think his on-the-ball technical quality is very good. He's kind of got a little bit of Ndombele about him sometimes, but a much bigger version in terms of the silkiness of his first touch. I think his technical ability is actually quite underrated. Again, I just worry a little bit like Basuma in terms of his, I don't know, in terms of like his desire to go wandering at times, his maybe lack of tactical discipline. But again, you make that step up to a bigger side and that responsibility goes up. I think you might be able to see the benefits of his kind of full potential. But yeah, I wouldn't, if it happened, I'd be excited for sure. And also, it's one of those things where there's not many other options out there in terms of what Spurs want in that. He's exactly the right kind of profile, Onana, exactly the right kind of profile. But yeah, I've got reservations about him personally.
It's that thing as well of if you're looking to recruit big players. I mean, you're thinking about vulnerabilities from set pieces. We've got a slight team, and if you're getting like a Toney, a Nana, think of that the contrast between this season and potentially next season with those types of players. I was listening to an Athletic podcast previewing the City Arsenal game like a couple of weeks ago, saying how big both teams are, and it's almost like you lose the game in the tunnel before the game. You look at these man mountains, these monsters, and you're thinking, fuck me, this is going to be such a physical test. And Onana is that. I think there is definitely weaknesses to his game. He's so young and his potential is scary, and he cost a lot of money. But is that worth the sort of the gamble? Because he has shown that he's a vital player for Everton, and he's a player that's on the up, and he can play in the Premier League. He's shown that he can be effective in the Premier League. I think it may be down to the system. He's obviously got a lot of pace. He's really good at recovery tackles, really good at slide tackling and timing those tackles and sort of stopping counter attacks. I think he looks better when he plays for Belgium, and I think that might be a factor because of the system he's played in. So when it comes to obviously he's playing for Everton, they're playing so deep, and he's playing in a compact midfield. That might limit him, and he might get wandering out. But if he's playing it's strictly to snuff out counterattacks, think of the pace, the recovery pace from Onana, Van der Ven, Romero, forming that triangle, sitting in front of Vicario as that core, that spine. When a lot of the stuff that the role he'll be deployed in will be to snuff out those counterattacks, and he'd do that so effectively. He'd get back so quick. He'd read that and he'd be able to. You can just see him how many times would he just clatter maybe a winger coming across from that number 6 position over to the wide, out wide, and just clattering a winger, getting the ball and stopping a counter attack before that danger's even there for maybe a goal for the opposition. I don't know. I think that's the type of player we should be going for. It's just, is there cheaper options out there? Maybe a Mats Vifer, but then that's just as much of a risk. It will be cheaper, but he's not Premier League proven. I think I'd love to see Onana sign for Tottenham. I really think if he's on the market, I think it's a no-brainer. Also, Belgium Spurs players, it's like Argentina and Spurs players. You just grow to love them, don't you?
Yeah, true. Yeah. I think it could be. I think it's probably the best option available, but I don't think he's the best option, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
overall.
I know what you mean.
I wouldn't be against the signing at all. I'd just like to see a bit of a step up. But again, he is stepping up to a big club. So I wouldn't.
Another thing as well is I think I've seen a lot of people talk about we need that sort of creative playmaking number 6. I don't think there's many issues with Basuma in an attacking sense from a number 6 in that position. I think his frustrations come from his sloppiness in defending transitions. I know his confidence is low, so now and again he'll do that sloppy pass, but I think overall there's not many players better than him on the ball and in possession. So in that position when he's being pressed, he's always being man marked. Whoever comes in, and it don't matter how good you are on the ball, you're still going to be getting man marked in games, and because it's such a vital position for us in the way we play. So I think it is just Onana can come in and he'd be so much better than Basuma in those transitions, in recovering and getting back and snuffing out attacks before they happen. And then lastly, Ali Gold reported earlier today that we're interested in tossing Adebayo, is it, from Fulham?
Adebayo, yeah.
Adebayo, yeah. Bit of a tongue twister. On a free transfer. So what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that'd be a smart signing? Because me personally, I think he's got all the attributes for an centre-back. But then I'm just thinking, why the fuck did we buy Dragic? If we're looking for tossing on a free transfer, he's playing with Bassi at the moment, isn't he? And Bassi will play on that left because he's left-footed. Adebayo is a right-footed centre-back. Could he play on the left centre-back? I just don't know. I feel like if we're going to sign him, we shouldn't have just gone and bought Dragusin, because Dragusin looks quite fragile on the left of back four. And I just think, I mean, I love Murillo. Murillo, he got my attention from that effort, just from that effort alone from his own half, and he's already scoring for us. So he's already fully coys. So I'm just saying, just go get him. Forrester in a bad financial situation. Just get him. But I know it makes sense because he's free, he's homegrown, he fit that quota. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't mind it, but again, it's not just even the Dragusin thing. It's like when you've got Ashley Phillips on loan as well out at Plymouth, who could potentially be someone who makes a step up next season to be on the bench a lot more. Do you need someone like Tosin Adebayo? It feels like a decent deal to do because he's on a free transfer. I don't know. He's a good defender. He is a good defender, and I remember when we were linked with him last summer. Obviously, there was a lot of chat around him, and I think even then we identified him as someone who could definitely work for Spurs for sure. But yeah, I'm kind of with you in the sense that, like, well, then why did we go and buy Dragusin if we're going to do this? And then we've also got someone like Ashley Phillips and also Alfie Dorrington, and also again not for like at least another couple of years. Yeah. So it's an interesting one. Yeah. I'm not. I get it, but I also don't get it. I think he's a good defender, but yeah.
He's quite injury prone as well, but he does have a lot of attributes that fit that centre back role for in this Ange system. He's obviously quick. He's competent on the ball. Come through the City Academy, so he's kind of got to be competent on the ball. And he's good in the air. I mean, how fucking tall is he? He's like 6'5" as well, isn't he? So yeah, we're sort of collecting all the big players from the league if we sign him, Onana or Toney. He's just signing all these aerial dominant players. I mean, I see it. It's just that we're so heavy on the right-footed centre backs. Unless Ange says, you know what, Ben Davies got another season in him, and I prefer him as a left centre back, because obviously he's coming in.
Well, this is the thing as well, because this is the thing. So like Paul O'Keefe also said that Emerson probably won't leave in the summer. Yeah, Ben Davies is unlikely to leave in the summer as well. So I don't know. Do we need him? Do we? I don't know. I'm not massively convinced. I'm convinced on him as a player. As if Spurs needed a backup centre back that was homegrown, you'd say, yeah, go and get Tosin Adebayo, 100%. But then it's like, it feels like there's a little bit too much going on there at the back. I think if we signed him in terms of starting the development of some of the younger players, but also Emerson and Davis as well. Like, it seems like they're both going to be here next season. So yeah, odd one.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think I'll be happy. I'll be satisfied if we sign him, but I think I wouldn't care too much if we didn't sign him. Like, I wouldn't feel like we've missed out on a massive opportunity. It's a free signing. It's a homegrown quota. You can just see it happening, can't you?
Yeah.
Score predictions then, before we wrap up. Score predictions for the Newcastle game.
3-1 Spurs.
3-1.
I think we got. I think so. I think we go and put a bit of a statement out. Not quite Villa level, but I think we go and win that. I do. I think we'll concede a goal probably, but I think 3-1. What do you think?
I have no idea. Every time I think towards the fixture, I get like flashbacks to Isak looking confused to why they're 4-0 up in 20 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to think about it. I just want to watch it and see if we turn up. I think fuck it. 4-2 Spurs.
Come on. I like that. I like that a lot. 2-2.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just going to be so tense throughout the game. I think it's going to be squeaky bum time every single time Newcastle attack.
Yeah.
But I just hope we just hit him with a quick 1-2 and then just stun St James's Park. And hope to see loads of crying Newcastle fans leaving early.
Yeah.
Get them back. We still got that memory. We want to get them back for that game last season.
With their tops off as well.
Just crying onto their saggy tits and just tears streaming down into their massive belly buttons. Yeah. And just leaving it ground with their head down low.
We've been beaten 4-1 on the Spurs League. We've been 6-1 last year. What's going on?
Mate, that's actually decent. You've been practicing.
Not bad, is it? I'm a man of many talents.
You are a man of many talents. So where can we find you on socials?
What a segue that is. You can find me, Ben Bowman, on TikTok, Twitter as well. Again, I always say YouTube, coming soon, hopefully. The Lab podcast as well, something that me and Flav are doing, part of the Fighting Cock, which is we're really, really enjoying that. And we did a good episode about strikers, as obviously we've mentioned. So go and give that a listen, the rate and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, go and give us a follow on TikTok as well. We've actually now, Darren and Doing, we've actually surpassed the threshold mark to go live. 800 followers. All the milestones are coming in today. 100 subscribers on YouTube. The best pod we've ever done, numbers wise, and I think quality wise, on the last episode. 800 followers. We had a TikTok that did well yesterday. We are. There's things cooking up over here. So make sure
cooking. Yeah, Darren and Doing.
Yeah, exactly. Go and subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on Apple and Spotify, even if you don't use them both, just for a laugh. Give us a like rating. Set us to auto download on Spotify as well, so you never miss an episode. And give us a follow in TikTok and Instagram as well. All the socials will be in the description, so you can find them easily. Go and give us give a click to them. Fucking come Spurs.
Yeah, let us know what you think about the episode as well. We love hearing your feedback. We've had some really good conversations with some listeners over the last couple of days. So yeah, we love hearing your feedback. It means a lot to us, and it's really wholesome. So thanks so much for doing so already. And let us know what you think. But that's all we have time for today. Up the Spurs, and hopefully we come away from Newcastle with the 3 points.
Up the Spurs.
Take care, everyone.
Come on, Spurs. Cool.